All right. Abdul Abin, we back at it. You know, we got to keep an eye on that east side. So today's news is not breaking, but it's going on. I feel like it needs to be more coverage on it. It is Israel targets Qatar in strike. Let's check this out. Shout out to the angry person that mentioned this to me. Shout out to you, a mere astrologist. All right.
About this.
Well, we have a strong statement from Qatar, as you might imagine. They have issued a statement through their foreign ministry spokesperson saying that this attack is a, quote, criminal assault, also saying that it is cowardly and that it is a blatant violation of international laws and norms. Now, Doha would be furious with what has happened. It's worth pointing out, as Jeremy mentioned there, that the Hamas main negotiator, Khalil al-Hayya, is stationed in Doha. He also met with the Qatari Prime Minister, who's also the Foreign Minister, just on Monday, we understand. And the Prime Minister was trying to push him and urge him to accept this US proposal for the ceasefire hostage deal that was on the table. So there were active negotiations between Hamas stationed in Doha and the Qatari Prime Minister. Now, Qatar has been one of the key mediators alongside Egypt and the United States. And this is certainly a very shocking development. Now, we have seen Israel targeting Hamas leadership in other countries. We have heard repeatedly from the Israeli Prime Minister that nobody in Hamas is safe. And
This reminds me of when they said they're searching for weapons of mass destruction, and then we have actual Marines and military men saying that these people only had chlorine bombs. This reminds me of the war on drugs, when really there was a war on Black people. You know, this is very reminiscent, and to have pattern recognition, I guess, is not a common thing anymore, which is very interesting.
They will target them wherever they are. But in the past, they have targeted them in Tehran, for example, in Syria, in the deeper past, in Jordan. But there has not been this kind of attack somewhere like Doha. And also, of course, it was Ismail Haniyeh, who was the political chief of Hamas, who was assassinated in Tehran. He, at the time, was the chief negotiator. And if, as Jeremy suggests, it was again the chief negotiator for this ceasefire hostage deal that has been targeted.
So they could just go to any country, clip anyone they want to clip, and do what they want to do. Wow.
It raises questions once again about whether Israel wants this deal to be done. The timing is very surprising, given the
Wasn't there supposed to be a call for ceasefire or to end the war? Why is it still going on?
fact that this new US proposal was on the table. The US President Donald Trump had given his verbal approval of it, saying he didn't want to see some hostages released one day and then some more the next week. He wanted all hostages released at the same time. That is what this deal is. It was on the table. We understand Hamas was looking at it. So, of course, a good question is, what does this mean for that deal now? Now, another interesting point that the Qatari officials gave in this statement was they say that it was residential buildings that would...
Oh, man, why they always trying to bulldoze a hospital, residential buildings, and then they say, oh, they're hiding behind them. You are still killing innocent people. I do not support neither Hamas nor the IDF. I support what is right. But you keep going in the residential places and blaming on these Hamas. What is this going to get to? You basically can go anywhere. You can bomb America if you wanted to say just because Hamas was there in it.
Targeted. These buildings were housing several members of the Hamas political bureau. But the fact that it was residential buildings that were targeted in Doha, again, significant. We don't believe that there was a warning for people on the ground. Was this just Hamas who was impacted in this strike?
All right, Paula Hancock, thank you very, very much. We'll stay in close touch with you. I want to go get the latest from the White House. Kevin Liptak is there for us. Kevin, what are you hearing from White House officials?
Yeah, officials still very much digesting the news of what happened is on the ground there in Doha. According to an Israeli official, the U.S. was notified ahead of time of their plans to carry out the strike. We have not gotten confirmation of that from the White House, and I think that that will be a very critical piece of information as we sort of digest what is happening here. As both Jeremy and Paula have noted, this comes at quite a critical moment. President Trump, as recently as Sunday, said that he thought a deal in Gaza could happen very soon as a result of this new plan that he had put on the table that would result in the immediate release of all 48 of those hostages.
It sounds like every time Trump has a plan, Israel wants to do whatever it wants. Just like when they attacked Iran, and then Trump tells Iran to stop the foolishness when it was Israel clearly who did that. Now they're saying because they said they wanted to attack Israel, that they went over there and they started putting in work. I guess we can't speak our minds.
Hostages in exchange for Israel ending its campaign to occupy Gaza City. He also wrote something of an ominous warning on True Social that day, saying that he's warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting this deal, that this was his last warning, there will not be another one. So whether that was issued with the knowledge that Israel was planning this attack is a question that I think we have heading in to today as we hear more from White House officials about what exactly transpired here. The other question is what this does to the U.S.-Qatar relationship. This has been quite a critical relationship. The Qataris have spent ample time trying to cultivate President Trump and his administration over the last several months. President Trump was the first U.S. president to visit Qatar back in May. Qatar hosts the forward headquarters of CENTCOM at Al Udeid Air Base. So some critical components of the U.S. national security infrastructure housed in Qatar. And according to Qataris who have said this over the last several years, it is actually the United States who asked Qatar to host Hamas's political leadership in Doha as a venue to have these kinds of negotiations. So how all of this sort of adds up over the coming hours, I think, remains to be seen. Just one more thing, Wolf. We have heard from the U.S. Embassy in Doha. They're saying that they've seen the reports of these missile strikes. They say that they've issued a shelter in place at their facilities, and they're encouraging U.S. citizens who live in the Qatari capital to shelter in place as well. So the U.S. government now advising both its employees at the embassy, but also all citizens in the Qatari capital to shelter in place as the fallout of this attack becomes known.
Yeah, it's really a serious, major development that's unfolding right now. And Kevin, a lot of people probably don't realize that the U.S. and Qatar have an extremely close military to military relationship. The U.S. Military Central Command, for example, has bases at the El Udeid Air Base. A lot of Air Force personnel are there. And Camp Asaliya, as you pointed out, ground troops. That's basically a regional headquarters for the U.S. military's Central Command. There are a lot of U.S. military personnel on the ground right now in and around Doha, Qatar. So that's a significant development. We'll continue to watch and monitor that as well. We'll see if that had any impact on this Israeli decision to go ahead and target these facilities in and around Doha, Qatar, where they suspect Hamas officials may be. But these negotiations are continuing. All right, Kevin Liptak, thanks very much. Paula Hancock, Jeremy Diamond, thanks to you as well.
Yeah, and we should also note, when you look at the U.S. and Qatar relationship, it was Qatar that gifted controversially that luxury jet to President Trump recently to replace Air Force One. It is a close ally of the United States, so it will be interesting to hear from the White House on this. But I first want to go to CNN Chief International Correspondent Clarissa Ward, our correspondent in London. Clarissa, just talk about the significance of what's going on right now.
I mean, this is a seismic event. It's not often you read something cross the wires that makes your jaw drop, but this was certainly fall into that category. And I think what will be crucial in the coming hours is trying to ascertain Israel's claim that the U.S. was aware of this strike. How aware of the strike were they? Did they effectively condone it? And if so...
I mean, honestly, we're already saying Israel can do what they want. And I'm not being anti-Semitic. You see my DNA chart. I'm a genetic Jew from my mother's line all the way back to the K haplogroup of Italy. It's very interesting because it says Ashkenazi Germany on the autosomal but on the maternal haploid, that group from the Ashkenazi in Germany had came from Italy. So I say that to say this: there may be some truth to some of these Ashkenazis being Bani Israel, because we know Titus the Great had kidnapped and enslaved a lot of Jews and brought them to Italy. Later on, many years down, we have Christopher Columbus, Cristobal Colon, who was a genetic um, Jew. Converso Marano, some say it means pig, but it also can be flipped around as meaning black.
What could the possible impact of that tacit acceptance of this strike be in terms of the relationship between Qatar and the US? And as Kevin was just articulating, and as you and Wolf have been discussing,
They just messed up relations with the US and Qatar, just like that. They can literally go anywhere in the world and they can go to Indochina and say Hamas is there and blow something up. This is insane.
this is a crucial relationship for the US. Qatar is host to the largest US base in the entire
Just making more enemies behind the 51st state, Israel.
Middle East. This is a close relationship that has lasted over many different administrations. And Qatar has effectively cultivated a unique space for itself in terms of being a neutral space where these talks and negotiations between various non-state actors and states and terrorist groups can happen in a safe and sensible manner. This is not the first time, by the way. We're looking very much now at the talks between Hamas and the U.S. and Egypt and Qatar and Israel. But of course, Qatar was also host to the Taliban and was a crucial part of the U.S. navigating its withdrawal from Afghanistan and essentially forming some kind of a dialogue between the U.S. and the Taliban that without an interlocutor like Qatar would be effectively impossible. And I think the question now becomes, beyond the sort of U.S. Qatar of it, what does this mean for these negotiations at such a crucial point in this conflict? Do they effectively end for the moment? Do they move to a different location? Do we see Qatar try to launch some kind of a retaliation? I'm not even talking about a military retaliation, but some kind of a very strong diplomatic retaliation at Israel. What does that look like? And does it effectively
A residential building. Don't forget that.
Torpedo these efforts, which had been ostensibly, according to multiple sources, gathering some momentum recently to try to push towards some kind of, if not a permanent end, at least a temporary stop to the fighting in Gaza. Pamela?
All right, Clarissa Ward, thank you so much. I know.
Boom, there it is. Yet another area stricken to Hamas leaders in a residential place. Now, I'm pretty sure Al Jazeera will have something to say about this. Let's check it out. All right.
Still chasing down paperwork from the field? Manual data entry and outdated tools frustrate.
This is the moment when Israel struck a residential area full of schools and embassies in Qatar. The country is a U.S. ally and a mediator for peace, but
Israel's our greatest ally. Right.
Was hit in an assassination attempt by Israel on Hamas leaders.
An attempt?
The Palestinian resistance group's delegation gathered to discuss the latest ceasefire proposal from the Trump administration. A member of Hamas's political bureau told Al Jazeera that the leadership of the group survived the cowardly assassination attempt. Chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya's son and his office manager are among the dead. He also reiterated that Hamas was meeting with a positive outlook on the American ceasefire proposal. He said the group holds the American administration responsible for the attack.
Praise be to God, the leadership of the movement has survived this cowardly attempt, and the leadership is now safe and secure, while at the same time stressing that the blood of the leadership is no different from the blood of any Palestinian child, woman,
Oh man, it's going down.
or man sacrificed for their homeland and for this cause.
The Qatari Foreign Ministry condemned what it
They're blaming America, bro. They might as well just make Israel the 51st state for real. It seems like we're never going to leave them. I mean, we're paying for everything. This is sad, yo.
calls the cowardly Israeli attack targeting a residential building of Hamas's political bureau. Qatar views it as a flagrant violation of its sovereignty and international law. Israel's attack killed a
It's definitely against international law.
member of the internal security force at the targeted site, and a number of security personnel were also injured. There's been mounting international condemnation after the Israeli strike. Saudi Arabia said the strikes were a brutal Israeli aggression.
Saudi has something to say about Qatar. They're finally saying something about all of this. Kingdom of Saudi. Bunch of gangsters. Criminals.
And a flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty with dire consequences for regional stability. Turkey's foreign ministry said that targeting the Hamas negotiating team in Doha.
Oh, everyone got something to say now. That big money Qatar is hit. Mashallah. Big money Qatar. Oh, you hit Qatar? Oh, that's bad for business. That's bad for business, America. Now it's something. Okay. Finally, at least.
Proves Israel seeks war, not peace, and shows its expansionist policies. Palestinian Authority Vice President Hussein al-Sheikh wrote that the airstrikes were a serious violation of international law and the sovereignty of the state of Qatar. Jordan's foreign ministry said the bombings a flagrant violation of the UN Charter and a dangerous escalation.
Even Jordan, next door neighbors. Wow, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. Oh, subhanallah. Thank you for your input, finally.
Threatening international peace. The U.S. State Department says Israel gave prior warning of the attack.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military.
Did they let any Americans know not to go to Qatar?
That as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and
Unilaterally bombing.
close ally of the United States.
Dropping bombs on a residential area. And America was okay with that. This is what you're saying, Holly? Becky? Oh, I see some of that pigmentation on you. You gotta get that checked out. Don't want to get blemished, all that mayonnaise.
United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace does not advance Israel or America's goals.
In the heart of Doha, around residential areas and schools, this strike leaves a question mark. Who knew what and at what point? And if Israel continues to kill the people who are negotiating, how is Qatar supposed to continue?
Exactly. How can it be a ceasefire? You keep bombing. How can it be negotiations? You keep killing people. People of the Caucasus and descendants have always been legendary treaty breakers. And I feel like Black Americans is the only ones that keep telling everyone this. And now everyone wants to listen. I guess it has to be our duty to be the bigger man and the more moral compass of the West to have open arms for all of these extremely anti-Black people.
Continue with its efforts of negotiating between two sides. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera, Doha.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay.